Hey, I just wanted to give a few minutes to the idea of burn down chart and try to explain a few things the best that I can, and give you some also some illustrations and explain this sample spreadsheet that I created for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and share that part of my screen, and let's just start talking about it a little bit. Even though I'm kind of talking to myself. So I'm gonna scroll this over just so we can see this burn down chart that I created. Now, right now it's a burn down chart that hasn't experienced any movement. So it really only has one line of any significance, and that's the blue actual line right now. Or sorry, not actual, ideal. So on this chart, the ideal line is going from the top to the bottom. There are two axes. One is the points remaining, and the other is the days remaining or time remaining. So you can see here that on the points remaining, we've got 300 points, and it goes down to 0 past the 20 here. And then also on the time remaining, it starts with a date here in March and goes on through almost the end of April. The ideal line is one that's very easily calculated. It's literally going from the top of the left side to the bottom of the right side. And it just shows the number of the remaining points per day that ideally we would be finishing. The red line right now is all up at the top, because, and I'll show you why in a second. But the red line will illustrate the number of points that were actually finished for that day. And this could be a burn down chart that shows the project in its finished state, or it could show it day to day. The chart, the axis don't change, the number of points doesn't change throughout the project, and the dates don't necessarily change throughout the project. What does change is the movement of this red line. It might be above or might be below the blue line. Let me see if I can show you a few examples here. I had a better, yeah, here's a good illustration. So this is a typical burn down chart. Let me see make sure that it's showing you. Yeah, it is. Okay, so you can see here that it's the blue line is the ideal line. Again, it's going from the left side top to the right side bottom, and it's just a straight line. The red line, though, is sometimes above, sometimes below. In this one, it's showing dots. I kind of like that. In the chart that I'm showing in Google, it's not showing any dots to signify the days. But we're still talking about the remaining number of points or remaining effort, and then the remaining number of days or remaining time. Typical burn down chart. So let me show you the data that's driving this burn down chart right now. We'll play a little bit with the numbers. So up here at the top, I've got the start date and end date. Now, right now in Project Wall, our start date and end date are kind of derived from different properties about the project, like due date and start date and things like that. For the burn down chart, what I'd like to do instead is have just a static start and end date that the user can configure when they're setting up the burn down chart. This allows the user to have the freedom to set up a sprint burn down chart, so they can see the progress during one sprint, or they could do the dates to cover the entire project, and that would let them have a burn down chart for the entire project. Could be useful, and just by giving them that choice, we're making it flexible enough to let the user do what they want to do. The total number of days is calculated. It's literally just taking the end date and subtracting the start date, and that's what we have. It's adding one just to give some visual effect, but basically we have 57 days between these two dates. This ideal points that I've got right here, or the total points, that's a number that I've pulled out of thin air. But in a Project Wall scenario, the user would have selected various lists in Trello, and in the Project Wall system, or the burn down chart system, would count the number of points that it finds in all those different lists, the working lists, and it would tally those up, and it would put that total right here. So that's why we have 300. So this could be 250, it could be 500, whatever the case. But we're gonna stay with 300 because that's kind of how I've got this configured right now for the sample. So the number, this row 6, ideal points per day, is calculated. It's a simple calculation. It's just taking the number of points and dividing by the number of days. And the ideal points is not based on what we think the ideal points should be, but it's really just based on a rote calculation, dividing the amount of work that's to be done by the number of days that we have in our date range. So 5.26 is not that bad, but let's change this date back to the 8th. Well, that makes our ideal points per day pretty high, 8.57. So for a typical team, 8.57 points might be a little high. So if the points are too high, we have some options. And this is not meant to be an agile lesson, but just kind of to point out what should be done. We shouldn't change the software here to give us a smaller number. We shouldn't manipulate the data to get us a smaller number. What we should do is talk with a client and cut the scope, or like lower this number so that this number can get into a manageable state, or we should move the end of the project out, which is what I was doing before. Or we can increase the team size to a team that can accomplish this number of points per day. So I'm going to show you this over here. This is another calculated column. It's taking the number of total points per day here, number of total points, and then subtracting the ideal. So that's why we have 291. It's just taking 8.57 away from 300. And then this one is taking this amount and subtracting the ideal again. So that's why we have 282. And it keeps on, each day, it keeps on subtracting 8.57, 8.57, 8.57 to give us an ever lowering number until we get all the way down to 0. Now, my stupid little spreadsheet is not smart enough to stop counting here at negative numbers, unfortunately. Let me see if I can. I did put in a calculation here to maybe help with that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now it's back. So it gets down to 0 and then it just stops trying, which is good. Should have done this for all of these, so I'll just do it really fast because ideally it would stop trying at a certain date. Yeah, there we go. That's much better. Okay, so so yeah, this ideal number goes down by the same value each time, which is what produces this blue ideal line. It just keeps on going down in a linear fashion by the same number, which is why if we reduce this number to 200, then this ideal number reduces also, and the number is still linear. Now, my spreadsheet is my chart is not doing what it should do there, but hey, it's just a sample, so off. Okay, so the actual values, this is just to demonstrate what it would be like if work was actually happening over the course of a few days. So let's just say we're going to do 6 there, 6 points, and then 5 points and 3 points. A team is struggling a little bit with these, and then whoa, all of a sudden we get a lot of work done in one day, big push, and got over that big hump, and now we're kind of getting back into the swing of things, and we're getting way too many points. I think Camilo has jumped in at this point and is starting to develop alongside of us or something like that, or Renee has gotten all of the blocks out of the way and is starting to kill people or something like that. Who knows? But whatever the case may be, we're getting some work done, and let's demonstrate what it's like to get down below the line. Yeah, so we got this team humming along, and it looks like we're going to get finished early. See how this actual line is below the blue line, but then we have a couple of days where Juan Jose is taking very long executive lunches, and and it's we're not doing quite as well. And Saul got dengue here, and we're kind of struggling. Victor finally got back from Roatan, and we start to get some extra points going, but it's a little bit too late because we're kind of at the end of the project. We should be done 4-8, and we've still got 27 points left to do. So that's where we start to finish things up a few days late. But you can kind of see here the Burndown chart. It stops at the same date that it should, and it shows that the progress wasn't at the very bottom at the end of that. You can also see here the actual is similar to the ideal, where it starts with 300 and then starts subtracting things. But what it's doing is it's subtracting the actual values and not the ideal values. So that's why this number doesn't have a linear effect. It really goes down based on what is actually being done. Let's say, okay, the client signed off on an extra week, so we've got this. We'll see our ideal points. Our ideal value went down, and so now it looks like we've finished early. Actually, I'm going to take these last few stabs away just to show what it's like. So there's our burn down chart. Really, for most of the project, because of that change in date, for the most of the project, it looks like we are doing better. We're able to hit the target a little bit better. So I'll go back over here and simulate a few of these again. We got a few extra days, so finished right on time. According to the new date, we're finished right on time. So you can see that our actual line comes to the same point as our ideal line, 0 right there. That's kind of how a burn down chart should behave. Obviously there are a few little things wrong with my spreadsheet, but I hope you get the point. And if you have any questions, I'm totally available for any kind of consultation or questions and answers. And hopefully we can get this burn down chart functionality in the bag and be able to move on to some other things. Burn down chart is going to make Project Wall a big hit, especially with Ackland Avenue and probably with about anybody else. So thanks.